انتوا بتسمعونا على STR The Sandy Times Radio. ثقافة، ميوزك وأكثر.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Sandy Times Radio. My name is Barbara and this is our brand new podcast Dubai Insiders. This is the place where we invite people from the different communities living in Dubai. DJs and entrepreneurs, sportsmen and influencers, artists and just our friends to show the new, different Dubai. This is the place where the members of Dubai's creative community answer 10 lifestyle and cultural questions, a collective portrait of the city's heartbeat. And today we are joined by Rusty Beukes, the co-founder of the creative direction and cultural consultancy Between Us Boys and the creative director at Havas Red. Together we will be taking a creative look at the city we live and love. Hi Rusty.
Hi Barbara. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. To begin with, can you please tell me how long do you live in Dubai?
I've been here for 5 years, going on 6. I think just enough time for me to kind of set my roots in the city, but also I feel like it's just short enough to kind of still have a fresh outlook on the city, which I feel like is important, especially with everything that happens in the city. But yeah. I used to be at GQ South Africa before, and it was a little bit more mature in its approach. And GQ Middle East launched, and I was the youngest of the GQ titles. And for me, it was just super exciting as to what they're documenting in the region. Everything still feels and looked very fresh. And it was with a much younger approach. And for me, that was enough to kind of throw my hat in the ring. And at the time, I relentlessly kind of DM'd the editor-in-chief, which used to be Adam Baidawi, and until he actually got back to me and we replied, and I think things just happened after that.
Perfect. Let's start with the questions connected to Dubai, and the first one is connected to the areas. Dubai is such a varied city. Some places like the AFC have people rushing to the meetings, and others are more chilled and relaxed. Which one is your favorite and why?
I think I tend to stay away from all the glitz and the glam, all the high-rise buildings. I think I'm geared more towards the residential areas, not as much like a specific area, but more so where subcultures thrive and things are a little bit more authentic rather than staged, and you have all these high-rise buildings and grey areas that just feels like a little bit of a block. But again, I feel like you meet the most interesting people where subcultures thrive, where there's not much staged around, but just authenticity.
And for example, what are they?
So again, Jumeirah for me is a big one.
And in which area you can't imagine that you will be living in?
Definitely Business Bay. And I think that's so controversial because everyone I know.
You know, you're the second
Business Bay.
person who is saying about Business Bay, and I am living in Business Bay, so it's like second time. I'm so shocked. Okay, tell me.
I gather from your reaction that you kind of live there, but I think it's just way too busy. But I know a lot of people that live there, and I just can't. I don't think I'll ever live there.
Many say that Dubai is the city that takes time to adapt, especially when you're moving in. What was your experience? Did you feel stress when you moved in? How much time did it take for you to adapt?
I think coming from a city like Cape Town where everything is based around nature, it was super hard for me to adapt here. The lifestyle also there is a lot more laid back, and I think the biggest kind of culture shock for me was the working culture here, because it is a working city, right? I think that for me was the hardest to adjust. It's also a very cold city in that aspect, that like moving here can be quite lonely, especially if you don't have people here already. It took me about like 2.5 years just to settle down. That being COVID was a part of it as well, so I moved here just before COVID. And I struggled, and there was a time all my friends referred to me as like the flight risk, because I'm the kind of guy that will pack my bags and book a flight tonight to get out of here. So it was really hard, but I think once you let the city love you, I think that's when you actually start to love the city. And right now I'm like, I never thought I would kind of refer to Dubai as my home, but this is home for me.
You were the person who was here during the COVID. Can you tell me how it was?
So I moved here, I think September 2019, which was just roughly 4 months before COVID, 5 months. And at the time I was in New York doing a cover shoot for GQ Middle East, and I flew back on the day that the countries were shutting down. So it was the last flight out of the States, and things here were quite normal, I would say. Like obviously the first month, month and a half, 2 months, correct me if I'm wrong, things were really tough. Everyone was obviously locked in, but then afterwards, things, slowly started opening up, and I think it was the best kind of place to be during that time, because we could actually leave our homes. We could, do a lot of things that other people couldn't do at the time. So I would say it was really tough at first being locked away and like being isolated. After the first 6 months, like I flew back to Cape Town and things got locked again. So I was stuck there for 3 months, and things there were quite bad in terms of the curfews, etc., etc. So I think we were a lot more relaxed here than everywhere else.
Nice. We are moving to my favorite part, food. What are your 3 favorite food spots in Dubai? They shouldn't be specifically well known or fancy, just yours.
I think a definite favorite for me has to be Kinoya. I take everyone that comes into town, all my best friends, anyone that ever asks for a recommendation to go somewhere, Kinoya is definitely the first place I will mention. During the winter, I pretty much go there twice a week, 3 times a week. Good food, good company, and just a really great ambiance. Second, I would have to say Kokoro, which is the hand roll bar. And I think just for the sake of, besides it being incredible food, it is also very hyped. But I think the hype makes sense once you've been. And then third is the India Club in Utmeta. Like, I think it's some of the best Indian I've ever had, ever in my life. I go quite often with a really good friend of mine that's obviously a member at the India Club. But I would say that's like a tucked away spot, and it's just one of those that kind of stay out of the limelight. And like I said, great food, always go there with friends. It feels super intimate, so which is one of my favorite places.
Perfect. Tell me more about the friendship culture here in Dubai. Is it difficult for people to find friends here? How does it usually work?
I think there's 2 parts to this question. I think one part of it is that it is really difficult to make friends. If you come here by yourself, not knowing anyone in the city, I think it can be quite difficult to actually make friends. But then there's the other side of it. The culture generally is quite open and inviting. I think from a local perspective, like Arabs are very welcoming and warm people. So for me, I knew a couple of people living here already, so it made it slightly easier for me. But also the friends that I made that didn't live here or grew up here are some of my best friends, but I also feel like it was really hard building that relationship with them from scratch, especially if you're a grown-up adult and you've made friends all your life, you have your groups of friends. So it is kind of hard settling into a group of friends that have had history way before you came along.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing that the Dubai has a lot of communities and big groups of people, and at the end of the day, everyone has 2, 3 close friends.
Those are the friends that I think you pick up along the way, but it takes a while for them to become super close friends. But once you have that, I think the city makes a lot more sense.
If you had to choose one outfit that would work for the most of the occasions in Dubai, what would it be?
I think I pretty much live in that kind of look, where it's a slight oversized trouser with slight oversized tee and then an overshirt over that. I feel like that could lend itself to most spaces and places in Dubai, and it's not too dressed up, but it's not too dressed down. I feel like that's like the perfect outfit for anyone.
And another part for the fashion, I know that you're launching the new brand. Can you please tell me how did you decide that you want to actually launch it?
The whole concept behind Between Us Boys is the fact that we have these capsules that document subcultures and pop culture terms that have existed throughout time. The whole idea behind the first collection, the first capsule, is called trade, and we bring that to life through a series of like heavyweight tees, 350 GSM cotton. We're bringing it to life through a zine as well to kind of document what the word trade means and how it has evolved over time. But the whole idea behind this collection is that, like I've always been a streetwear fanatic. I've always followed streetwear giants like Virgil Abloh or like Nigo, for instance. And I've always wanted to launch my own thing. I just never knew what it was going to be. And I think this is just a natural extension of me. I wear these tees every day. I pretty much live in them. And for me, it's about bringing to life, like I said, a subculture or a piece of culture that have existed over time. Hopefully, we'll be launching this in the next 2 weeks. And I mean next 2 weeks from we're sitting here and speaking.
That means 29th of September plus 2 weeks. It's like the middle of October, let's say.
Don't hold me to it, because we've been sitting on this for the last year and a half, and we've just been trying to craft, like I said, the perfect tee. I'm also a little bit of a perfectionist, so it really takes some time for me to bring out whatever I want to bring out. So hopefully this is a success.
Dubai feels like the capital of DJ sets. It happens almost every day. Do you have the spot where you love to listen to music in Dubai?
I don't necessarily have a spot to listen to music in Dubai. I feel like Dubai lends itself to a certain type of music, which isn't really the music I listen to. I don't necessarily have like an insane alternative type of music I listen to, but I think, like I said, the city has a sound and we all know what that sound is. So for me, I would say a really incredible place for music that is built for music is Honeycomb Hi-Fi, right? Like, it's absolutely incredible space. I've been there a couple of times. Again, the type of music isn't my choice of music.
And what is your type of music?
I don't think I have like a type of music. I pretty much am flexible in the type of music or the genres of music I listen to. I just think those spaces are a little bit harder to find in the city. And if you do find them, it's not necessarily like the most community-led spaces to hang out in, which I feel like is a little bit of a problem. DJ sets, yes, they happen every other day in Dubai. We all know what that sounds like, right? It's also very formulaic in its approach. It exists in club nights and it exists in dinner spots, where I feel like there is the space of music and rawness and authenticity that hasn't been discovered in Dubai yet. And I know a lot of raves take place in the desert, so I'm not even talking about that. But I just feel like the favelas, they're like a collective that does really cool, raw and authentic like parties outside of the club space, which I feel like is such a big empty space that still needs to be explored. And I feel like that is also spaces where community comes together a lot more than in the club or, dinner spaces.
It seems like everyone in Dubai is into at least one sport. And what is yours?
I think for me it's indoor cycling, spinning, which I pretty much obsessed with, and I try to recruit everyone to come with me. I've recently discovered a really great instructor called MJ Platform in Dubai Hills, and I pretty much don't miss any of his classes. And it's just one of those things where I feel like, again, it's being a part of community, right? And that's why everyone in Dubai do some kind of sport, because it feels like you're a part of a community and it just feels like a sense of belonging, I guess, in the city.
Yeah, that's true. And it's interesting you have chosen cycling because two big communities I know are actually running and cycling.
Yeah, I think besides paddle, right? Because everyone plays paddle.
Yeah, that's true.
But I feel like generally that is also because indoor cycling is indoor and you can do it whenever in the summer and the winter. Honestly, I don't get it because the weather is awful, especially during the summer. But I know so many people that just belong to a running club and they run throughout the summer, which is insane.
Same, I hate running and I can't imagine myself running outside. Like literally, if you have a gym, you can run in the gym and then go to the shower directly. You save time, you save energy. I know people who are running outside.
Oh, 100%.
And I have another thing that came to my mind. You know, it's usually you receive the invitation for a coffee, right? Like, let's
Yeah.
have a coffee somewhere. Now I started receiving the invitations. Let's do some sport together.
Oh,
And I'm like, why would we go for sport and we will be sweating together, not talking at all?
I mean, I'm a little guilty of that because, like I said, I recruit everyone and anyone who I know to join the cycling class with me. There's a sense of bonding that comes with it, and if someone is into the same thing as you, right, it just feels like community again. It brings it back to that, but that's just me.
But it's not about new people, you know them.
100%, but it is bringing someone, I think, into something that you like. And it just feels like you've got something in common with someone if they do like the same sport as you, right?
Yeah, it makes sense. The art. I don't want to limit you because I know that you're a super creative person. I don't want to name just an artist in the specific sphere. Could you please name me the creative person that inspires you and he lives or she lives in the UAE?
I think that this is, choosing your best friend out of all your friends, which is something you shouldn't be doing. But yeah, I think there are these two boys, brothers. They belong to like Tabari Art Space. They're two artists, local, Talal and Ziad Najjar. And I just feel like they really encapsulate not only, what like as young artists, what like youth is about, but the Dubai creative scene is really like. And I think their art speaks on so many levels to so many people, and they're super young. I feel like if you want to really know what the landscape in Dubai looks like and what the future will look like, it looks like these two boys, Their work inspires me. It covers a multitude of disciplines, and I just feel like they're a really great representation of the creative scene in Dubai.
Perfect. Imagine this. You could win $1 million if you correctly guess what is the most common issue people in Dubai bring to their therapists.
I think loneliness, right? I feel like as much as it's such a big city and there's such a lot of people and there's such a lot of things to do, I think a lot of people still struggle with loneliness in the city.
Is it something that is possible to fix somehow?
I think it'll be fixed with time, in my opinion. I think it's just the city is still super young, right? And I feel like with more time, these pockets and these spaces will be created where you feel less lonely, and it's a little bit more warm than cold in that sense, because it is a little bit of a cold city for me in terms of meeting new people, being able to infiltrate certain spaces. It's a little bit hard, but I guess with time, things will ease up.
What is the most positive and the most challenging thing in your job?
I think the most positive thing for me in my job, in my honest opinion, is the fact that I get to work with a lot of emerging creatives, and I get to share my space and what I have created in terms of access for young creatives and emerging creatives. I tend to always lean that way in terms of sharing my platform and the spaces that I have access to with people that don't have access to it otherwise. And then I think the most challenging part of my job is to just get out of my own head, if that makes sense. A lot of creatives struggle with that, just being in your own head, not thinking you're good enough. But in a lot of sense, that's just, the inner saboteur speaking. And I think that's something I struggle with daily, just sharing my work, being able to let people in. So yeah, I would say that's the most challenging thing about my job.
And the bonus one, what stereotype, good or bad, about Dubai actually turned out to be true for you?
There's one, right, there where Dubai is kind of a superficial place. And I feel like that is half true and not half true. I think the connections that I've made, the people that I've met, goes quite deep in terms of, there's substance there, it's purpose-led, etc. But then the other part exists, right, where everything is a little bit glamorous, a little bit glitzy, a little bit, superficial. So I think that's also what really talks to the spirit of the city, because it's this duality that plays up against, everything that's larger than life, everything that can always be, bigger, more grander. And then you have the other part, which is the desert, which is just simple, authentic. I feel like that duality exists within Dubai, but is it superficial? I think that's like a 50-50, right? So,
I love it. Okay, Rusty, thank you so much. I think we covered all my questions. It was amazing to see the city through your eyes.
thank you so much for having me, Barbara. Like I said, I think I've been long enough to, lay down roots and then short enough just to be able to have a fresh outlook on the city.